o'clock. Hi, everybody. So yeah, this is the long weekend, obviously Easter long weekend here. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be busy and stuff, but that's why there's recordings. So thanks for coming. And I'm actually driving to the coast right after this, having breakfast and got to go to work. I go to Tokyo tomorrow, so I'm cutting it pretty close here. And then, but I was doing a retreat. So yesterday we just finished up and did fire puja at our place and everything, which was lovely. And Wayne came to help. And what was sweet is that I guess Candace had said that there is a bear around on her land and our land too. And I thought, oh my God, wouldn't that be funny? Because, whatever, might get some unexpected visitor at the puja, and even later on, I had to go and just take care of the remnants of the fire. And I thought, oh my God, what if there's a bear? But it was fine. So it's springtime, right? We have all the skunk cabbage out on our land now. So that tends to attract them, I think. So wonderful. Thanks for coming, and hi to Natasha and everybody. So I'm going to try, and usually I just, blah, blah and go way over time, but I sort of have a bit of a deadline here because I gotta get driving and stuff. So I'll try and do it, get done basically on the hour and everything. So today we'll be talking about Bodhicitta. That'll be sort of the topic we'll be covering today in the second class. And the following week, I'll have to do a recording. I'll send that out. There's about 2 classes just on what nirvana is when we talk about nirvana. So that's I'll be at Tokyo at the time, so I'm just going to have to sort of do a recording. But anyway, here we are today. So let's get started. I'll recite the Heart Sutra here on my phone. Okay, loading up here. Okay, starting with our always sort of framing our whole discussion, everything in terms of emptiness. Homage to the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother. As I've heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Masswalter's Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time, also Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection of wisdom, looking perfectly at the 5 aggregates being obtained in human existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the 5 aggregates being empty of inherent existence, form is empty and emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomena. There is no I element and so forth up to no mentality element, also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Minds have no obstructions and no fear, passing under beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas who reside perfectly in the 3 times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and the unequal mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayatam Gada Gada Paragada Parasam Gada Gada Soha. Shariputra, Bodhisattva, great being, should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good son of the lineages like that, just as you have said, and it's like that, just as you've written that way, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. And the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. So let's just chant the Prajnaparamita mantra 7 times. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiso. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiso. Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. 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 Okay, so just to ourselves here 3 times, let's do the 9-point breathing, again, flushing out attachment out of your right nostril, anger, reactivity out of our left. And then on the final inhalation of the 9, of course, holding your breath, mixing it with the prana at your navel and putting your mind there. And then we can release. So just 3 times on your own sort of pace here. Okay, the meditation here. Let's get comfortable to do our visualization for the next little bit. So we can just visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space, ground being like lapis. And that's surrounded by all sentient beings of the 6 realms here. Starting with those closest to us, kind of working out concentric circles from there. So mother on our left, father on our right, people we love the most behind us, people we like the least in front of us. From there, just all the people we know in our neighborhood and at work, families and so forth, friends, going out to all other people in the world. Thinking particular places where there's wars, conflict, great injustices or disasters, great amount of suffering, bringing them all here close to us. Animal realms, or the whole Gaia, or sort of ecosystem of Earth here. So they always say traditionally visualize them in human form so they can understand language of the teachings and stuff, but sometimes that's hard to do too. So just at least feel the presence of the animals. I like visualizing them in their regular form so I can feel that they're here and just almost like psychically they're getting the teachings that way. Celestial beings, gods and demigods, countless spirit beings, spirit world, astral ethereal planes and so forth are here. And then countless beings from lower states of rebirth, hell beings and hungry ghost beings. All of us here, happy, so forth. And now it's a wide open sky above us, blue sky. Just above us and a little bit in front of us here. We're going to visualize our central figure. And today, because we're just going a little faster, I have to finish right on time on the hour because I have to drive to Vancouver. We're just going to visualize central figure from Lama Chopa, low sent to by Bodhicitta. So the threefold figure of Tsongkhapa, Buddha Shakyamuni, and divine couple Vajradhara and Vajradhara, who are Buddha's higher sort of angelic or Sambhogakaya form. So like a big sun in the sky, we're just going to have Tsongkhapa in lotus position. And in this form, he has 3 robes of a monk, yellow pants, hat, normal. But in his left hand, he's holding a begging bowl filled with medicinal nectar. His right hand is in the mudra of teaching, so the index finger is touching the thumb. He's holding the stem of a white lotus on his right ear. So at his heart now is Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha as we normally visualize him, and wearing 3 robes of a monk. Beautiful golden body, begging bowl in his left hand with medicinal nectar. Right hand is palm open, touching the earth in the subduing mudra. So Lo Sang here means Tsongkhapa, 2 wings are the name for Buddha. And then Dorje Chang, of course, is holder of the Vajra, the holder of the diamond, the Vajradhara. So now at Buddha's heart is Vajradhara in divine embrace with his partner, Vajradhara. I mentioned before His Holiness Urgyen Rinpoche, very, very famous Baram Kagyu Dzogchen teacher of the 16th Karmapa, very, very famous Nyingma Lama, he used to call Samanta Bhadra and Samanta Bhadri sort of primordial Buddha, your old granddad and grandma. And it's very sweet, this idea that kind of they're always already here, kind of like your lineage, your BuddhaNature lineage. So, you can call Vajradhara and Vajradhara our granddad and grandma. The only thing is they're 16 years old, so you have to visualize your grandparents as being young again. But it's this idea that they represent, of course, the Sambhogakaya form of the Buddha, pointing the way to Dharmakaya, of course, and this being your own Buddha nature. So they have beautiful blue bodies wearing crowns, ornaments, and so forth. He's holding a Dorje bell. She's holding a curved knife and a skull cap. And they're in sexual embrace. She's in his lap, straddling him, arms around his neck. So now taking refuge in them, I and all sentient beings into each even light, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings to each even light, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I know all sentient beings, to each even life and go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues we collect by giving other perfections, may we become a Buddha for the benefit of all. So now just visualizing, just purifying our minds so we have proper refuge in bodhicitta, and beautiful white lights and nectars are coming out from the heart, just heart level of Vajradhara and Vajradhara, center of the figure there. They're coming down into us and all sentient beings around us. So again, it's easier. It's almost like a waterfall of white nectar and energy going into us. And then just this kind of like a soft diffuse light out in all directions for all sentient beings. Again, purifying us all negativities, making us crystal clear, flushing out all negativities in the form of black smoke and soot and dirt and so forth. It's kind of like a strong soap, getting rid of all the dirt. And so if you have a dirty glass, crystal wine glass or something gets cleaned out, now it's sparkling and crystal. It's the same as our bodies and our minds. Now the lights of energy turns color to golden color, and this is the first purification. Next is sort of the merit. So this is sort of an energy empowerment, blessing energy, Jinlat mind transformation, making our mind go from a reactive state to an affirmative one, to sort of the sort of sad, constricted, selfish person we usually are, to this opening up like a beautiful flower blossom into this joyful and blissful, loving creature that we have as our potential in any moment. This is the sun coming down and making us as a little flower open up. Again, giving us spiritual power, compassion, wisdom. The Buddha's here. Age and for measurables, may everyone be happy, everyone be free from misery, may no one ever be separated from their happiness, and may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. So as I like to do, just feel that the sort of golden waterfall is still coming down into us, and now it's going in all directions like a big bubble, a big soap bubble, and this is sort of giving love, compassion, joy, and equanimity to all beings around us. So it's like a fountain, so the water's coming down and coming out in all directions. And love being, wanting all sentient beings to be happy. Compassion means not wanting them to suffer. Joy, sort of that the ultimate happiness and bliss of nirvana. But I always like to add sort of that it's a positive creative power as well. The power actually to be happy, the power to be compassionate, and so forth. And equanimity, balanced, grounded mind, sort of beyond the extremes of liking and hating. Again, so I know one meditation book, I said it's like having a warm, open, friendly attitude towards all beings. Okay, so 7 limb practice here. Prostrating, showing respect, devotion to the merit field. offering from our hearts. Again, we can visualize, billions of candles going in all directions as a light offering. Flowers, I tend to like the flower part. Beautiful cherry blossoms raining down, or gardens, or so forth, or even just beautiful forests or something like with wildflowers or whatever. Opening your heart. Confession and rejoicing, I think they always sort of go together. So declaring, acknowledging, standing up in front of all sentient beings and Buddhas here, just saying, here I am with all my negativities, all the small, sad, horrible parts of myself that I'm working on, that I'm being accountable for, taking responsibility for, seeing that they're habitual, they're caused, I'm not inherently bad. These things have all risen in response to things in my life, this life, childhood, so forth, past lives. And it's all bad habits or bad dispositions and predispositions. We can let them go. We can purify them, outgrow them, wipe them out, so forth. Like Zen cleaning the mirror. And by just even doing this practice today, we're on that path of healing and purification. And then rejoicing just in all the good things we're doing, trying as hard as we do on the path, all the goodness in the world, in small sentient beings. And most of all, as an example, just the absolute beautiful, sublime goodness of holy beings and light beings, all the Buddhas. Okay, asking Buddhas to stay in to teach us. So just sending out a line throne, sort of going up, floating into, dissolving into Tsongkhapa. Please always stay with us. We are manifest as the spiritual guides in our life. Never leave us in the dark, wandering around. And again, teach us. It spoke to golden Dharma chakra we send up as well. So again, just as the big thing, just Buddhas are always there, the sun shining. It's just the clouds of our mind and bad habits that block this guidance and blessings and energies and so forth. So whenever we say, please stay with us, please teach us, it's kind of making a hole in the clouds there to receive that guidance and blessings. And finally, dedicating, always dedicating, never just, I guess you might approach as that great thing where dirty good karma, whereas if you're not dedicating all your merit, it just gets used up in good experiences in your life. It's like, wow, I always find the best parking spot, or wow, that was just amazing dinner. Oh, hey, I got whatever, I won a lotto thing, or at the casino, I won $100, or just all good things like, you get a promotion at work. I mean, not that any of these things are bad, but in a lot of ways, samsarically, they don't go anywhere. They just get burned up, and you become quote unquote a karma consumer, or you're just sort of using up good experiences. Oh wow, what a blissful life, this is great, da, 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 da. And you're just sort of blowing through your gas tank of merit. So it's always best is just to keep offering up that circle of giving, offering up to the Buddhas, receiving blessings, giving to all beings, and then just dedicate, just almost corralling all this good energy towards the best thing possible, which is all sentient beings being enlightened. So my first teacher always said just to dedicate everything constantly. Just, oh, that was a good cup of coffee. Something else if it means enjoy a good cup of coffee, or that's a beautiful sunset. I mean, you don't want to be neurotic about it, but at the same time, it's just always offering it up and sharing it with all beings and putting it to this higher purpose. Candle offering here, holding a beautiful purified, I'll make it a little more official, holding the beautiful universe, purified universe at our hearts. Meru, all the continents, possessions of Chakravartin, Emperor, Empress, all beautiful things. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. I offer without any sense of loss the objects that give rise to my attachment, hatred, and ignorance, my friends, enemies, strangers, their bodies and enjoyments. Please bless me to be released directly from the three poisons. Om Enam Guru Radha. Send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious gurus. Okay. Now, upon doing that, sort of sending that mandala off, we can visualize beautiful golden lights coming down again. Send to all sentient beings. Okay, just another energy empowerment here. Blissful, just also just giving us compassion, wisdom, and power. Okay, doing the dissolution now. Let's just visualize that Los Dorje Chang starts to melt into light. So first of all, Tsongkhapa sort of melts into light inward, dissolving into his heart, into Buddha Shakyamuni. And Buddha Shakyamuni melts into golden light and sort of dissolves inward from top of his head and his feet and his legs inward to his heart. Now let's just define couple, Vajradhar and Vajradhatu Ishvari. And then they get really small in the sky, just like a little blue sapphire, blue diamond, or a piece of lapis, shining up beautiful rainbow colored lights on the 5 elements. And just sparkling, they come down to the crown of our head, turn around so they're facing the same direction, and very, very slowly, as they're just made out of lighter energy, they can enter our crown chakra, and then they descend in the central channel into our heart. And then when they get there, they melt into light and dissolve with our root mind. Dissolve the compassion, power, and wisdom, all the blessings of old lineage is sort of being downloaded or sort of directly, kind of like an intravenous feed, right? Medicine directly into our mind. Great spaciousness, bliss, and joy. Okay, so it's coming out of meditation now. Okay. So I just wanted, again, I just have to finish in the next 25 minutes or so, just on the hour. So I'll try and keep within this time. And today I just wanted to teach, this is sort of in the Asian Classics Institute course 2 on refuge, and it's considered part of the Prajnaparamita teachings of the sort of 7 main topics or fields of knowledge that you do when you're doing your Geshe program, this and that. So we've been talking about refuge the last little bit and qualities of Buddhahood. So this class here, I'm just doing sort of the quick notes on it, and just what I think is interesting is on Bodhicitta. So of course, Bodhi means enlightenment, and Chit in Sanskrit means mind. So it's the mind of enlightenment, or sort of awakening mind. We sort of hear that a lot, when you're studying Buddhism. So one thing I do have, which is interesting, I was reading this and I actually don't understand this myself. I'd have to study a little bit more and try and figure out the answer for this. But in the teachings, I guess Michael was saying that basically refuge and bodhicitta are seen as being primary minds and not mental factors, which I think is interesting. So I don't really know how that works, to be honest. Of course, the primary mind is just the main mental event, or the main sort of mind cognizing experience. The mental factors are mental functions. Functions of the mind are focused on particular things or aspects of the object the main mind is looking at. So it's interesting that I guess it says refuge is a primary independent mind and not a mental factor. So it's, I guess, sort of your main intention towards life, I guess you could say, having refuge. And so this is seen as a main mind. And bodhicitta is the same way. It's this idea that it's not an individual wish or intention towards something, but it's sort of, he was saying, imbues the whole mind. It's kind of like your regular primary mind is almost colored this way once you have bodhicitta, which is, I think it's really beautiful. How that actually works and that they're not mental factors, I don't know myself. I was just sort of reading through my notes here going, I don't get that. That's something to think about or do a little bit more research in. But I guess you could say, in a lot of ways, at least figuratively speaking, when you have true refuge and when you have real bodhicitta, especially engaging bodhicitta, these are embodied experiences. So they're not something intellectual that's separate from yourself. It becomes a way of being. Your whole mind, I guess it's almost like, I say, if you have a glass of water and you drop food coloring into it and change it to blue or whatever, refuge and bodhicitta, it infuses everything that you do. And I guess this is the idea when you're on the Mahayana path and become a bodhisattva, just like the 6 perfections, your day-to-day behavior, everything that you do is sort of, I guess you could say, tainted or colored by bodhicitta. And same thing with refuge. You're taking refuge all the time if you're a real Buddhist, a real true Buddhist. Your whole behavior, like we were saying before, is taking refuge in emptiness. Being wide open to that rather than in individual things where you're distracting, entertaining yourself all the time. So maybe you could look at it that way. And that's why there was a great quote. There's a really good book by Lama Zopa Rinpoche called Ultimate Healing. I don't know if you guys ever read that. It's got medicine but on the cover. Anyway, excellent book. Highly recommend it. Haven't read it in a long time, but it's very, very good. But in that book, he was saying, what you get a lot, and I've been this way in the past too, but I've got some Dharma friends like this, is that you get almost kind of being like a quote unquote a gearhead or whatever with healing techniques. You always want Rinpoche, all these lamas, to teach you all different healing techniques. Show me how to do this for dying. Okay, what about this? Okay, what mantras for cancer? Okay, what mantras for pancreatic cancer? You end up getting so focused on all these little techniques, when really, if you know healing, if you do healing work, what really heals people is really you being available or loving to them. Like it doesn't, that's why all these techniques end up working in the end, whatever they are, because it's really the intention and purpose, you showing up, you having an open heart, that person meeting you there, that healing takes place on that level. So Lama Zopa in that book says it's very beautiful, but he says, just by being a bodhisattva heals sentient beings, just by being. So in other words, just having bodhicitta makes a difference. So you don't have to run around trying to fix the world in a very obvious way. Just you being you, if you have bodhicitta, everyone around you ends up being healed and gets sort of almost like a subliminal teaching on bodhicitta and emptiness and compassion. And that's why I see all great saints where everything they do, I know as only a Song Rinpoche, I've got a little biography of him somewhere. It's amazing. They said that when he's such a powerful Mahasiddha, right? One of the great Gelugpa Lama's 20th century, that when he'd show up to someone's house, the flowers would bloom. Like it's like everything around him, woo, just because his energy was so strong and amazing. And you see this with St. Francis and even very powerful Christian and Islamic Saint Sufi guys, is that animals can talk to them and come up to them. Wherever they show up, everybody shows up to be with this guy or this woman because they just know how powerful they are. And they trust them in that bodhicitta's healing, you know. So Namkhai Rinpoche, great Nyingma Lama, his uncle was a very, very famous yogi. I can't remember his name. It's in that book, Crystal and the Way Light. It's a really, it's an excellent book and it's got some great stories in it. But he lived in this cave and some king from the Kham region, from Durga or something, had to go visit him and get the blessing. And he went up in the cave and there was a cougar in the cave. Sitting with this uncle who was doing pujas, and this big cougar, and there's no place to sit. And so the king's like, oh my God. And he says, you can sit here right beside the cougar. And the guy to like sit, but it's like, don't hurt me, right? But the cougar is like totally blissed out. And it's just like, I want to hang around the guy with bodhicitta, right? Like, it's really beautiful. So in other ways, this is where on a tantric level, you see with higher tantric, where they say with tantra, the 4 tantric actions are, of course, pacification, increase, controlling, and destroying, right? Those are all based on bodhicitta. So you can see that if you have bodhicitta, you end up pacifying everything around you, increasing everything, controlling everything in nice. In other words, people that are aggressive, their aggressivity disappears, right? When they're around someone like this. Just like they always said with the founder of Aikido, since I can't remember his name, is that anyone who wanted to fight him, the moment they show up and see him, no longer want to fight him because he's so pure and so peaceful. Like Aikido means way of peace, right? That he disarms his opponents. Like they just show up. So I'll take on this old Japanese guy. And it's just like, wow, you're amazing. And it's just like totally blissed out just seeing him because his energy is so peaceful. So that's real controlling CDs, not just running around doing controlling fire pujas, or same thing with the pur, but real destroying negative energy is just having bodhicitta. You don't, at that point, just having that ends up subduing or controlling things. So I think in a lot of ways, you can see it being a prime mind on that level, rather than an individual mental factor that you're kind of dropping on like little water droplets onto the mind. Okay, classification of bodhicitta in the sort of notes I have here is according to the 5 levels of practice. So the 5 paths, I should say. So 5 paths, and this is, you divide up your whole path to enlightenment into 5 different paths, of course, in terms of how you see emptiness. We've talked about before. Path of accumulation, you're accumulating all the merit and energy and training and so forth to see emptiness. Path of preparation, you are preparing to see emptiness directly by seeing it inferentially or intellectually. You end up training in concentration, tranquil abiding, and you end up having the correct object on emptiness. You study it intellectually, and then you get a correct image in your mind, in what they call nominal images, words and thoughts and concepts. You have a correct image of emptiness. That's the path of preparation, because everything's being set up for you to see it. The more you meditate, just as we learned, the concept drops away and then you get the object directly. So in this case, the concept of an absence of inherent existence ends up dropping away and you see the lack of inherent existence. That's the third path, which is the most important one. When you sort of pop over and flip over to being a higher Arya being, you're no longer a human being. You've seen emptiness directly. You're a completely different spiritual being at that point. And that's the path of what they sometimes call insight, or path of seeing. I'm seeing emptiness directly. I'm embodying, seeing like a direct experience of it, right? Just like tasting sugar or something, it's direct. So on one of the Bodhisattva grounds is called face to face. It's like you're sitting face to face with emptiness. Then the other one is the path of what sometimes they call meditation. It's better called habituation. Meditation means habituation, right? So gom in Tibetan means creating a good habit. So the definition of meditation is habituating your mind to a positive object, or in other words, an object that produces happiness rather than suffering. So that path is actually where the rest of the work is. You've seen emptiness directly. You come out of your Arya being. You see the Four Noble Truths or Four Archas as being correct. How then do I live my life? Well, at this point, I'm living my life with emptiness. I'm just at this point really embodying it, putting it into my life, meditating more and more on it, stabilizing that experience until I reach the final path, which is no more learning. Whereas this is when you enter nirvana, you're fully enlightened. At this point, you're an arhat, or if you have bodhicitta on the Mahayana path, you're a Buddha at this point. So in terms of bodhicitta, the first two paths of accumulation preparation are more what they call aspiring bodhicitta, in the sense that it's more of an intellectual understanding or a belief, just like what we're doing right now, at least speaking for myself. What I'm doing right now is I'm constantly trying to generate bodhicitta, keep it in my mind, live it as best I can, but it's kind of not a direct experience yet, right? Once I see the path of seeing, this point here, it's interesting. When if I have bodhicitta, at this point, it's engaging. When I see emptiness directly, this is sort of the big moment that I see that everything I've seen up until that point has been a lie. Things seem independent of me, independent of my mind. They seem truly existing, set and against me. I'm in an opposition to them because I've got this truly existing ego. At this point, I see conventional reality. When I come out of meditation emptiness, I see things are just nominally imputed. I see things are just a product of my mind through terms and concepts in relationships to one another as dependent arisings and so forth. So at this point, when I have bodhicitta, I become an Arya being. I'm engaging bodhicitta because it's like at that point, I want all sentient beings to have the same experience, because I see that this is the direct antidote to suffering. And I care so much and love people so much, all sentient beings so much. I want them to be exactly in the same space that I'm in right now. So the rest of this is it. From now on, I'm just sharing this, teaching this, living this with everybody else to bring them to that same state. So that's when I got here is interesting. That's when you have real, true, and like a superior intention. Like this is the point where you no longer pass the buck, where it's like, hey, someone else can get enlightened. I'm just having a party here, maybe partying will help. Maybe at this point, I'm just going to have fun. When you see emptiness directly, of course, there's no other choice but that. You're really engaged bodhicitta. You would want to do nothing else but help all sentient beings get enlightened by having that direct experience of emptiness. So just to let you know, at that point, once you hit the path of seeing, that's where the 10 bodhisattva grounds arise. At that point, when you perceive emptiness directly, you are officially a quote unquote real bodhisattva. That's when we were always saying, oh, Matthew, you're such a bodhisattva, you teach on Saturday mornings. But that's just, of course, figurative. I'm a wannabe sort of poser bodhisattva at this point right here. But when you hit the path of seeing, you are a real bodhisattva. And at that point, you've entered the first of the 10 bodhisattva grounds. First one being called very joyful, because the first 6 of them, each of those grounds as I'm progressing. So the path of the fourth path of habituation is just, in other words, habituating my mind to living with emptiness. That's, you're going through those 10 bodhisattva grounds. It's like you're going up a staircase of 10 steps. And when you get to the top, which is cloud of Dharma, at that point, it's no more learning, you get enlightened. Well, it's actually the next step after that. That's technically the 10th bodhisattva ground. They say it's the last moment of being a sentient being in any sense. And then when you flip over from that, you're a completely enlightened being and a Buddha. You're a Nyorai in Japanese, or a light being, right? So each of the first 6 paths are the 6 paramitas we're used to. And then the 4 after that is perfection of power, perfection of prayer, perfection of skillful means, and then finally a deeper perfection of wisdom as you're starting to see the 2 truths simultaneously. So like perfection, like I can't remember, you'd have to look it up. I can't remember which comes first now. I'm a bad teacher here. Which ground it's like, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. 10th one's of course the perfection of wisdom in a higher sense. But maybe the one before that's perfection of prayer, and then power and skillful means. I can't, we look this up. I mean, you could probably go online and find it. But of course, perfection of skillful means when you're at that bodhisattva ground, you know exactly how to help people. For one thing, you're clairvoyant because you have tranquil riding. Number two, you know from the deepest point in your heart with bodhicitta, you just all you do is care for this sentient being's well-being, and you've seen emptiness directly. You can see, at a certain point, even when you get higher, you'll start to know these people's delusions. So for the first time in your life, you're really going to be able to be like a Lama and help people. Like right now, we're all codependent, helping people. We have our own opinions, what people, my advice is, blah, blah, blah. But when you get to this level, you know exactly how to help a sentient being. In particular, how to get on the path to see emptiness directly. And of course, when you're a Buddha, there'll be no doubt you can do this. But even on this level, you can do it. Perfection of power, which means you have more and more spiritual power to do that. It's like a higher form of joyous effort, and you make things happen. You can manifest. And then power of prayer, they say, I mean, it's kind of interesting. They say at this point of bodhisattvas, prayers are extremely pure. But at this point, they say like literally your prayers come true. When you pray for people or doing things, you're manifesting it directly. And also, when you hit the first bodhisattva ground, which is always wacky, I can't remember how many, but you start being able to emanate forms. So at this point, it's almost like you're becoming a little Nirmanakaya of the Buddhas. You can start emanating illusory bodies. So you literally can be, these are these things that can be in multiple places at the same time. So in other words, so I'm having coffee with you, but at the same time I'm in Vancouver teaching, and at the same time I'm working on the flight to Narita or whatever. Like you become one of these sort of amazing magical yogis or yoginis that can do all these things. And we've all heard stories. I always like to tell the story. There was a Pali Nyingma group in Montreal, Ottawa, when we were there, I guess about close to 25 years ago. And the Lama there, I think one of the Lamas was Brazilian. He was a Tulku, and he could do that because my friend she used to come over all the time when we were living in Ottawa. She was part of that group. She knew the monk this happened to. I might have told you guys this story, but he was a monk, and he was a young guy, and he was thinking of quitting. He didn't want to be a monk anymore. And he was downtown Ottawa, and he kept running in, I might have told this, to this Brazilian Lama everywhere in Ottawa. He'd be at the Rito Center. It's like, hey, Rinpoche, how are you? Oh. Then he'd be at whatever, at Starbucks on the street. Oh my God, Rinpoche, you're here again. And then finally it's like, okay, this is getting weird. He's like, I feel like you're trying to tell me something. He said, yeah, I'm trying to tell you not to quit being a monk. You're an amazing monk. Don't quit Dharma. And he's like, wow, I really feel that, you really came here on purpose to teach me this. He said, yeah, I'm actually back at the temple outside of Ottawa meditating right now. And the monk's like, ha, ha, ha. And he's like, no, really? And he said, call me on your cell phone. So he did, and the guy picked up in the temple. And he said, see, I'm meditating here now. This is just another me that's come to tell you this. And if you practice Dharma, you'll be able to do this one day too. Right. And the monk say, oh my God, that's so amazing. Right. So that's a true story too, because I know it because my friend, she was the most amazing person. She'd heard from that monk. I mean, it was just like a direct feed for the story. Anyway, that's what happens when along these sort of different paths and bhumis for bodhicitta. So let me just quickly look here to make sure I'm not missing everything before we finish. Yeah. Oh, and just quickly, I just had this at the end. This is out of LamRim. The discussion's way better in there. You can go look at the great scope in Bodhicitta. And of course, the teachings on LamRim and Bodhicitta are just absolutely amazing. They're quite extensive. But there's the three kinds of Bodhicitta motivation, which of course, king-like, shepherd-like, and ferryman-like. So of course, I remember famous psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan always called it the Bodhisattva paradox, right? Whereas I can't enter enlightenment because it shows I'm being selfish. So I have to wait till all sentient beings to help them, but then I can't be a Buddha yet to help them. So it's like this weird and of course that's not a paradox. It's a paradox because he doesn't know what he's talking about. There's only one way, of course, of doing this, and that's, of course, the king-like bodhicitta. The other two, oftentimes you see in the prayers where bodhisattvas say, I'm not entering nirvana till all sentient beings are there. But of course, it can't work that way. I can't teach people emptiness directly if I haven't seen it myself. I have to be in a pure land to be able to help bring beings to a pure land. If I'm just a regular sentient being with all these nice religious and pious thoughts, they can't really help sentient beings in any real way. They're just sort of nice aspirational new age thoughts or whatever. That the only way it can really help beings is to perceive emptiness directly and work from that standpoint. So that's like you're the prince or the princess becoming the king, and at that point, or queen, you can help your subjects. So the shepherd-like idea that I let all the sheep in, and then it's like turn the lights off when you're the last guy leaving and lock the door. This kind of, in other words, I'm the last guy in samsara and get everyone out. That doesn't really work. It's a nice prayer, and it's a way of sort of showing how so committed you are to it. But as you can see, if I can't help myself, if I can't get rid of my own delusions with perceiving emptiness, how can I sit around thinking I can do that for all other sentient beings? And then the fairy men like one is that you're going to out of samsara to enlightenment kind of on a fairy, being the Uber driver at the same time all sentient beings are doing. And again, nice idea, maybe a little codependent, I don't know, but that one wouldn't work in the same way. So the only way that works, and again, it seems to some people maybe a little selfish. It's like, all you're doing is just meditating all the time. The world's falling apart. You're just sitting on your couch or like your cushion. What can you do? Well, it's like the best thing I can do is to try and get enlightened as quick as possible, see emptiness directly, to be the best possible help I can be to others, right? So it's the old example, you can't make a gold nugget out of a bucket of nails, right? The best, in other words, I can't make enlightenment being a completely deluded person. I can't truly help people, which means helping people help themselves, unless I've seen emptiness directly. So that's the kind of bodhicitta you want, is the king-like bodhicitta or a queen-like bodhicitta. Okay, so that's that. I have to kind of hustle, drive to the coast right now, but it's good to know in particular to study more the idea of learning what those 5 paths are, and if you've got time to learn what the 10 bodhisattva bhumis are, because that's technically the map. Like that's sort of the map on where you're going to understand even where you are. It's kind of nice, like maybe you're on the path of accumulation by now. Well, technically path of accumulation, we're on path of preparation. We need more sort of meditative stabilization for tranquil body to truly be on that path. But you can get a sense of where you are along there, and then of course how much more work you have to do. That's always good. Okay, so thank you so much for coming, and I'm sorry to rush it a little bit today, but next class, I'm going to have to do the recording because I'm going to be in Tokyo. So I'll do it from there and send it out to everybody. And we will continue with some talks on bodhicitta and nirvana in particular. So let's just take a moment to dedicate all this merit. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for sharing and meditating with me. So by the blessings of all holy beings, all the light beings, all of our teachers and bikinis and so forth, the truth of karma, and the power of a pure spirit intention, or again, our bodhicitta, may our wishes be fulfilled. May all sentient beings get enlightened. Okay, thank you. Let me just press stop right here.